Welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over how to programmatically use file storage services. So this simply means using file storage services within your functions. So you might have applications that deal with files, images, right? That you have stored on some AWS S3 bucket or like Azure Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage bucket, and you would like to use those in your application, or you might have an application that users are uploading files, or some whatever the case may be. You want to programmatically handle files within your applications, within automations, within APIs, and do some transactions that involve your file storage services. On the Inhouz Cloud platform, we have functions, right, that are ready-made, that are secure, and that are designed to facilitate such actions. All right, so I'm currently in the Inhouz Cloud console. To get to the file storage services, all I need to do is click on file storage service. As you can see here, I have one service in my account. It's an AWS S3 service that I've set up. To programmatically use this service in some function, I'm going to jump into the functions module, and we are going to create a function. We're going to call this function file storage tester. All right. So what we're going to do here is just give this function a name. We're going to say test file storage service functions. All right. This is simple, straightforward function. So we're going to have one workflow in this function. I'm just going to give this workflow a name of logic. All right, so to get to your file storage service functions, all you need to do is just type file, and you would see file storage service deletes, file storage service get file storage service get signed URL, file storage service upload. So for this demo, what we're going to do is that we are going to upload a file. We are then going to get the file, and we're also going to get the signed URL. I'm going to try and knock everything out in one video. So here we have our upload file. So we're going to need a few parameters that are going to be passed into this function. So it's going to be the file storage service ID. It's going to be a string. That's one. I'm going to need the file name. That's going to be a string. I will need the file key. Again, a string. I will need the base 64. Another string. The MIME type. All right, so those are all the parameters I'm going to need for this demo. So let's go ahead and bind these over. So you could just type them in. Oops, I need the variable name set. So I'm just going to call this upload response. I'm going to map this to the file storage service. So this is one way of mapping it. Or you can switch to, let's say, code and just type in parameter. In this case, we call it file name. Here we have file key. Let's close that, close that. Base 64. Perfect. And the MIME type. All right, so that's that. The next thing we're going to do is that we are going to get this file that we just uploaded. So we're going to use the file storage service get file. So I'm going to call this get file response. So we're just going to pass in that file storage service ID. And we are going to pass in the file key. And finally, we are going to get a signed URL. All right, so we're going to get the signed URL. So I'm going to call this signed URL response. I'm going to need the file storage service ID. I'm going to need the file key. And then I'm going to need a duration. For this, I'm just going to set this to 100 to a year. Or let's just do 5 hours. So I'm going to use a function here. We're going to say moments. We're going to add, we're going to say, call it 5 hours. 5 hours. And then this is going to be Unix timestamp. So we're going to have to multiply by 1000. All right. So there you have it. We have our function. Oops, one last thing. We need to see everything. So we're just going to console log. And we are going to console log our upload response. We're going to map this to variable.upload response. We're going to get the get file response. We're going to map that to variable.get file response. And then the signed URL response. We're going to map that to variable.signed URL response. So what we're doing here is that we are uploading our file. We are getting that file, and then we are getting the signed URL. Then we're console logging everything. So before I can use my function, I need to make sure that it's deployed. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy our function. All right, so now that our function has been created, it's time to use it. So I'm just going to open up our S3 buckets. We currently just have 4 files. And after this test, we should see an additional file. All right. So to use this function, I am going to jump into the app builder. So because this is a function, you can use it anywhere. You can use it in in-house APIs. You can use it in an automation. You can use it from within your applications. For this demo, we're just going to use it within an application, within a web application. So I have an app here called File Storage Demo. I'm just going to jump into it. It currently has a file upload widget that's already dropped over here. And this file storage widget is currently connected to a file storage ID. So if you were to upload a file, it would go directly to your file storage location. So what we're going to do here for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So we're just going to do it from scratch. All right. I am going to go ahead and save. Perfect. I will drag in another file upload element. All right. So this is called file upload 3. I'm going to just change the binding here to just say, I guess, just say file. All right. Keep it simple. So what we're going to do here is that we are going to upload a file. So I kind of selected it off screen. But if we go over here to our app data, we can see that the file is right here. Remember that we changed the app data field to file. So we just uploaded the file. We can see the file name, size, type, base64. So this is your standard HTML file upload. And if we go back to our S3 buckets, we still have 4 files. Perfect. So what we're going to do here now is we are going to drag a button. All right, so we're going to change the text in this button to say upload. And we're going to connect this button to an event, the onClick event, to our file storage tester. Perfect. Awesome. So it's time to go ahead and map the fields that we have here to our function. So let's go ahead and do that. Just remember that it's file, it's an array, and we just have one object within it. So in your scenario, it could be whatever, but this is just this one scenario, and that's how we're going to do it here. So let's go ahead and do this. If I were to click on here, the MIME type, we are going to just connect that to the type. So what we're going to do here is say parameter dot app underscore data dot file. Okay, so remember that our file was an array of one object, and that's that. So we just mapped to the type. Then we say the base 64, same thing. Just going to copy this, come over here, switch the code, paste it, change the type to base 64 to match with our object. The file name, we're going to do the same. We're going to switch the code, paste this over here, and then I think it's called file name. Let me confirm. Yes, it's called file name. Now your file key. So if you know anything about cloud storage services, your file key has to always be unique. So if you were to upload the same, if two people were to upload a document with the same file key, then one document overwrites the other. So what we're going to do here is that we are going to just write a function that makes file keys unique. All right. So we're just going to open a immediately invoked function expression. I'm going to say function. Okay, we're just going to close this bracket. Perfect. Here we're going to just say our file name. We already have that from here. I'm just going to copy this, paste that in there. So our file name has an extension at the end of it. It could, so we're just going to make sure that if it does, we are splitting it. So we're just going to say split name, and we are going to split our file name. So this is a little bit technical for you, I understand, but Inhouz Cloud is for developers. All right, so we're going to split it on the full stops. So then we're going to grab the extension, which is going to be the last item. All right, so we're going to just say, well, if the split name, right, is if it has more than one field or so property in the array, so if it's greater than 1, then we're going to grab the last index or the last property or text at the last index. If not, then it's just going to have no extension. So sometimes your files will not have an extension. It would just be like a regular name, no extension. All right, so we have the extension here. So now what we want to do is slice, and then we want to basically go ahead and create a new file name. So this will be our file key. All right. So we're going to just say that we are, let's say file key, it's gonna be. So we're going to grab our array, and then we're going to slice it from 0 to our last index. Okay. And then we are going to join this with a dot. Okay. And this is a bit more technical than I wanted this to be, but here we are, and it kind of is what it is. I'm going to put an underscore here, and I am going to just say random underscore. I'm just going to put a random number. All right. And then dot our extension. All right. So we basically just said, okay, let's take out the first parts of our split file name, and let us take everything but the extension. Let's put it back together. Let's add this random text to it, and let's add a random number to it. And then let us put an extension, put the extension at the end after a full stop. And we only want to do this if we do have more than one property in our split name array. If that's not the case, then all we want to do is just use the file name as our file key. There's nothing we can do at this point. Or we might say, well, let us, instead of doing that, let us just say file name, because it still has to be unique, right? And just put that mat random at the end. And we could just, for fun, grab our random text and put it right here. Okay. And we are going to return our file key. Perfect. So I could have just copied and pasted that, but here we are. So to get our file storage service ID, all I need to do is go back to our file storage service module and just grab it right here. Copy that, paste it right here, and I believe we are ready to test. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And let me see, do I still have that file? Yes, I do. So if I were to click on this button, it should upload. But remember that we are console login things. So let's open our console. Okay, clean out our console and hit upload. All right, perfect. As you can see, we get 3 responses. So our upload response is basically an object that basically gives us all the metadata. As you can see here, this is the file name, and this is the final file key that we used. It has the random, and it has our random number over here. This is originating from an in-house function. The file type is an image PNG, and it just has a bunch of metadata. You can use this, in your applications, so that way you can always reference it. And then over here, for the signed URL, we have this nice URL. If we were to copy and paste it in our browser, we will see our file that we just you will see the file that we just uploaded. And here in the get file response, we can see the base 64 of the file that we just uploaded. And if we go back to our AWS S3 buckets, we should see a fifth file when we refresh. Perfect, there's a fifth one, and that is our WS logo. Awesome. So in this video, we've gone over how to programmatically work with file storage services from within functions. We uploaded the file, we downloaded the file, and we got a signed URL for that file as well. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.